Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the 5Marks Pro Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, Mr. Merchant115, joined by my beautiful, not my dance partner, because this week Carmel couldn't make it. So this week, I am joined by the once-in-a-lifetime, the Brock Lesnar of the 5Marks, shows up whenever we can't have anyone else, Mr. Emmet and Casey.
Whenever you pay me enough, I'll be here. Whenever you pay me enough.
So he is the Brock Lesnar. Literally. But this week, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by a pretty big name in the Irish and English scene of professional wrestling. He is... God, you guys keep adding people, so it's soon enough it's going to be hard to count. 1/4 at the moment of one of the best and my favourite faction in professional wrestling at the moment. He is a multi-time OTT Tag Team Champion. He is a former Pro Wrestling Ulster Champion and a whole list of other ones, including the ICW Champion, Mr. Damien Corvin. How are we doing?
How you doing, boys? I'm good, lads. Just quickly, I'll apologise if this is recording, because I am using my phone, so I'll swap arms and move about. So if anyone gets motion sickness, sorry. But it's just how I do things.
They can just stare at us for a bit. It's grand.
Yeah.
we have two co-hosts who do it every episode they're on as well. So I'd say if people have seen those, they'll be well used to be Irish.
Oh, they'll be perfectly fine, especially whenever Kevin comes on. He's just all over the place, bringing the phone around. So they're well used to it. But thank you for coming on and joining us. Like, it's great to have you on. I can tell you for a fact, I was telling the lads the story because I wanted to have yourself come on for ages, yourself and Bonesaw, and I was sitting there for ages going, do I send the DM? Do I send the DM? Do I send the DM? Absolutely breaking it. And I've said to lads, like, I've never been this way since Foxy. I think that's how much of a Kings of the North fan I am. It's just absolutely breaking it to ask you to come on.
There's no need for that. Like, I'm nice enough-ish. I always say ish. I'm sure there's people that disagree somewhere. But unless you stood in the ring with me, I'm not too bad.
That guy once bit me backstage. It was awful. It was terrible. All I did was offer him a drink.
I can attest to how much this man loves you, though. I was sitting beside him at Scrapper there a few months ago, and I've never seen someone jump out of the seat as quick as the drums came into your team. This fella was up like a fly out of hell,
hand up, ready to go, just yeah, my boys have arrived.
That's before, 20 minutes before Dan Maloney dropped me on my head.
Yeah. But we'll start this the way we start with everybody. So the one thing we like to ask people is most people can remember their first wrestling memories. So we'll ask you, do you remember the first memory of wrestling that comes in your head that kind of made you a fan?
Yeah. So my first memory of wrestling is Hogan versus Ultimate Warrior. It's the first thing I ever saw. My dad got me a tape, and we watched, him and my brother, watched Hogan versus Warrior at Mania, and that was me. Ever since then, just hooked.
And that was the Mania one, it was?
It was the Mania one, yeah. It was the good one.
I was going to say, because if it was WCW, we've got a long talk here.
No. Thankfully not. It was the WrestleMania, Hogan versus Warrior. I think my dad had actually bought me the entire WrestleMania on cassette, but that was the match that we put on. And it was, that's the first thing I remember watching was that.
So you would have grown up then watching the new generation era, like the Hogans going into the Michaels and the Bret Harts.
Yeah. So I grew up going into pretty much the new generation of guys. So it was HBK and Bret Hart, Owen Hart, Jeff Jarrett, people like that were starting to kind of get the bigger pushes. Scott Hall, Kevin Nash had kind of started to elevate themselves up that ladder a good bit at that point. Triple H had come in. 1 2 3 Kid was legit the 1 2 3 Kid. Bob Holly was Sparky Plug. That kind of that kind of
the gimmicky phase.
Yeah, a bit gimmicky, but I mean at that point, even then, I gravitated towards the less gimmicky. I see less gimmicky. I mean, obviously Shawn Michaels was dancing about and like a member of the Village People, and Bret Hart in pink and black and like things like that. So they did have gimmicks, as such, I like Razor Ramon was a guy I was I was a huge Razor Ramon fan. But like even though they were gimmicked, they weren't that over the top sort of that crazy, like they weren't the Repo Man or or people like that there. I mean I loved IRS. That's one guy I actually thought was awesome. Believe it or not. I thought it was, but then I was too young to know what IRS meant. So I think it was just cool that this guy came in a shirt and tie and battered lads. Um, but yeah, that was my kind of that was I was they were starting to phase out the sort of over the top mental gimmicks, and even the guys with the gimmicks. So even like Taker at the time, who was like super undead, Undertaker at the time, it was you could just tell, even at a young age, you could tell there was just something different about those guys. And it kind of just went from there.
So obviously you said Razor Ramon was one person you really liked as well. Who
Yeah.
growing up did you really kind of gravitate towards?
So I mean, like really, really young, it was it was Shawn Michaels and it was Razor Ramon and things like that. But quite early on, it was like just after my dad had died, we didn't get wrestling. So we didn't get the WWE, we didn't get Raw and that kind of stuff because it was on the expensive channels and they weren't getting paid for. But we did get WCW on TNT. So TNT was free after Cartoon Network if you lived up north.
Yeah.
So you would get to watch Nitro on a Friday night at like 11 o'clock at night. So I started kind of gravitating towards WCW at that point. And it was guys like Sting and Eddie Guerrero and Dean Malenko and Perry Saturn, all of these Chris Jericho, all of these like what you would call smaller guys, but like obviously not Sting. Sting's a tank, but he was doing the Crow gimmick at the time, and like you tell by my tattoos that I'm infatuated with that thing. But like it was the smaller guys. It was the the Guerreros, the Jerichos, the Malenkos, like Bret Hart, like Shawn Michaels, like Owen Hart. Like I was always more of an intercontinental US championship kind of guy. And it was like those like smaller in quotes, I have to quote that, smaller guys that I was really drawn to because I was a small kid, so it just kind of seemed more plausible.
So it's just like you were very drawn to like at the time they were called like the workhorse titles in a continental
Yeah,
United States.
still now, still even now,
I
very much so.
I was the exact same growing up. Like I was a mad like I loved the US title division. Like I remember every year when like somebody won the Money in the Bank, I'm like, why are these people all cashing in on the world title? I'd be cashing in on that beautiful United States title. Like
Yeah, yeah, it's the same sort of thought. But even like recently, I say recently, but when 205 Live was a thing, man, I love 205 Live.
Yeah.
Because like Buddy Matthews, and Pac, and Mustafa Ali, and you've got these guys who people are looking at and kind of on Drew Gulak and that kind of thing, and people are going like, oh yeah, they're the smaller guys, and then you're watching like 205 Live, and the matches these guys are cranking out are just incredible. Um, so I mean, again, call him Buddy Matthews a smaller guy. It's a bit of a it's a bit of a stupid thing to say, I mean, that guy makes me look like a child. But again, that was always the sort of thing I was drawn to. Um, and then of course, like you had your upper level guys, like your like Triple H. I'm like not even brown nosing. He'll never hear this. But like I think Triple H is like one of the single greatest wrestlers of all time. From like the brawler standpoint. I mean, you've watched my matches. The brawler standpoint, I'm not technically gifted, and I can't do some of the stuff that these other guys can do, like LJ or even like Bonesaw. People think Bonesaw all can't like he just like brawls like I do. That guy could technically wrestle, pretty much anyone out of their boots if he felt like it. He just doesn't feel like it. He'd rather just chop you. So yeah, like that's the kind of and then as I got older, then I started to kind of gravitate towards like the British wrestlers and the Irish wrestlers. So your Finleys, your Regals, Davey Boy Smith, watching Dynamite Kid, getting a little bit of a taste of New Japan and stuff in there as well, and watching the junior heavyweight division. So I mean, I've got a very eclectic taste in pretty much everything. and wrestling's no different. But definitely like the workhorse guys, the smaller guys, the cruiserweights and the intercontinental guys were always sort of my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
The guys I look forward to watching.
I'll let you throw a question there, Emmett.
Yeah, just on that note, then, like you're mentioning all these like workhorse lads that you were watching growing up or anything. There's a lot of you that have worked through OTT now in the near 10-year history that the company has now at this point. Is there anyone that's passed through that you looked up to as a young fella that you got to meet or work with that had you kind of standing back being like, this is actually happening?
Oh, like they mean like an import guy or?
Yeah, well, an import or British or anyone at all, like just someone that you
Yeah, I
looked
mean,
up to as a young fella that you got to work with at any point.
yeah, I mean, to be fair, like, I mean, I got to work with Gangrel there very recently.
Yeah.
No, I'd love to have wrestled against them. But the fact, like, I got the tie with Gangrel, man, I was an incredible, like, a massive, massive Gangrel fan. You know, I even stole his gimmick for some of my early years. You know, I've worked with Al Snow quite a lot. And I mean, Al Snow is learned so much from him. Just I'm a very lucky, like Scotty Tuhani. I've worked with Scotty. We've had him on the roster so many times now. Tommy Dreamer was there, Sabu was there, Abyss was there. I'm a huge TNA mark. Like TNA, total non-stop action back in the day. Like so, working with Abyss was incredible. X-Pac was there. You know, the list just keeps on going. And it's like some of these guys I watched growing up and watched when I was very early in my career. Like, I mean, when I watched TNA from like its inception. So I used to watch it on Bravo. If you guys ever remember that's how long ago
so
it was.
I found it as well.
So I was watching like TNA on Bravo and like losing my mind at AJ Styles and Chris Daniels and like Jay Lethal and Sabin and all those guys, Petey Williams especially. And again, like those smaller guys, those exhibition guys, those workhorse guys, going, man, this is incredible what these lads can do. But then Abyss would come out and you'd lose your mind at Abyss. So working with Abyss was amazing as well. Tama Tonga and Tangaloa as well. That was incredible. As a tag wrestler, you know, how could you not love the Guerrillas of Destiny? So working against them at the stadium was awesome. But there's so many. I mean, Joe has been great at bringing these amazing wrestlers in, and I mean, I don't want to say I've been lucky to work with him. It is lucky to work with him, but obviously I've worked to put myself in the position where Joe could trust me to work with him. So I'm just glad that the hard work paid off and I got the opportunities in the back of it.
So I don't know if you can realize I'm exactly the same. My background's completely flooded with AJ Styles plaques, so I'm completely the same. I found TNA one day on Bravo, which is like, well, this isn't the WWE. What's this? But so when did you decide that you wanted to step in and try and train to be a wrestler?
So pretty much, I had always wanted to be a wrestler, always, and unfortunately, like, you know, my mum and a lot of my family, I was a very skinny kid. Like I'm talking about, like I was 9 stone, soaking wet. You know, really small, really skinny, like really timid as well. Like you know, I mean, I wasn't like a super sports kind of guy, you know. So like they weren't very encouraging. You know, like, you're too small to be doing that now. You know, you need to go to school and do this, and you need to go to school and do that, and be like a lawyer or a doctor or some other bollocks profession that work like 150 hours a week. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. You know, if I'm working 150 hours a week, I want to be doing something that I want to do, and this is what I want to do. And I ended up getting a throat infection when I was living in Spain, and it's called Quincy, and it has like levels of severity, and I was like the highest level of severity with this throat infection. So my throat actually closed in the middle of the night. Woke up unable to breathe, had to like rip my throat open just to breathe. Yeah, so, and I kind of went, yeah, I'm done with Spain. I'm done with this kind of lifestyle that I'm living. And I just kind of, I phoned my grandparents, like, hey, look, I want to come back to Belfast. I don't want to live in Spain anymore. And they said, yeah, come on over. This is grand. And I just jumped on Google. It's like professional wrestling, Belfast. And UCW showed up, also Championship Wrestling showed up. Big picture of Bonesaw as the Machine and Duncan Disorderly and all of these other like guys who just looked the part and looked great. And they had a training school, and that was it. I was like, yeah, set, I'm done. I'm going to go learn how to do this, and that was it.
So we asked this to all the guys, and it's great to hear the answers. Everyone has a different answer. What was probably like the hardest thing to get used to? Like a lot of the guys, it's hitting the mat. For some guys, like Danny Cross said, the one thing he just couldn't get in his head was running the ropes. Something simple as running the ropes. Do you know? So what was something for you?
So this is going to sound very cocky, but I just got it.
Yeah.
Like I just got like, and it's not what I say. I just got it. I've been watching wrestling non-stop since I was a kid, studying it non-stop since I was a kid. I had all of the games, every game that was ever released on any console. I had it. I played it. And you know, a lot of people don't understand. Like you play like SmackDown versus Raw. It's motion capture.
Mm.
You know, so it's actual people doing it, and it's motion capture for the game. So like the technique and stuff is there. For like a lot of moves and things along those lines. So I never really struggled with that side of it. I struggled with the fitness and like the gym and diet side of things. That's where I struggled pretty badly at the start. But like in regards to actually the ring itself, no, that was fair. Like again, not cocky with it. I just picked it up like instantaneously.
Yeah, no,
But it's the only thing I've ever picked up instantaneously. So
no, there because there's some guys who are exactly like that. Like we've a mate that's training at the moment, and like a lot of the lads down at Hard Knocks say like, no, he just like we tell him do this, he can do it. He's perfect. Like you know,
yeah,
just gifted. So like a lot of people can't be like that. You're the first person to say, oh yeah, no, on the podcast. I just got it. So it's another different answer. But then obviously, so what year would you have started training? Would it have been like 06, 07?
let me see. I started when I was 19. So what year are we in now?
2023.
23.
2023. So 2008. Yeah.
God,
So I started in 2008.
that's a long time ago. He's at this point he's a veteran.
Yeah. No, yeah. So what I'll say about that though is that like the guys nowadays, they have no idea how lucky they are. A lot of
Yeah.
like they don't take it for granted. A lot of the guys are very like they're very appreciative of what they have now. I used to have to walk for 2 hours every Sunday. I used to have to build the ring every Sunday. I used to have to take it down every Sunday, and I got to train for 2 hours every Sunday. That was it. There was no other training in Northern Ireland. That was 2 hours on a Sunday. So for the first year, you know, if you take into account Sundays I had to work, anytime I might have been ill, or like sometimes the place was closed because it was a scout center and they had something on.
Yeah.
So like I might have only trained like 30 times maybe the first year I went there. You know, but like after that year, things picked up a little bit, and then I heard about NWA Ireland, or FFPW as it is now, from a couple of guys who were coming up to wrestle for UCW. So I started traveling down there every now and again, and doing an extra bit of training there, but it wasn't anything to the level that you're getting in the School of Irish Wrestling now. You know, those guys are running like 4, 5, 6 classes a week. Fight Factory are running like 4, 5, 6 classes a week, every single week. You know, and then you could probably do both at some point. So
Yeah.
you might be able to get like 7, 8 classes a week. You know, I was lucky to get 7, 8 classes every 3 months.
They're spoiled for choice now because now like you've got
Yeah,
if they want to do the travel to Limerick, you've Hard Knocks that do it twice a week.
yeah, you've got
You
Hard
know,
Knocks as well. Yeah,
so it's spoiled for choice nowadays. I remember saying that. I think I can't remember, was it with Damo or I can't remember who it was with, but we were saying it to them, like, because back in the day, I think it was just Fight Factory and like Phoenix or something like that down here. Now you've got RCW, Hard Knocks, OTT, Fight Factory, Titanic, many more promotions. Everyone is spoiled for choice now.
Yeah.
So, but then obviously, speaking of the NWA Ireland, you made your debut then for I think it was an NWA show with Pro Wrestling Zero.
It was, yeah.
What was that like? Do you remember your debut match?
I remember my debut match. My debut match lasted 3.5 minutes, I believe. And it was myself and my buddy Scott, who does not wrestle anymore. He packed it in a long time ago now. And we were in a tag team gauntlet match, and we tied against Aguila Artois and Sir Michael. And Sir Michael was a big jack lad. Like, Sir Michael was a big lad. And Aguila Artois was Jordan Devlin. When Jordan was like, he was about 18, 19 at the time. I was 20-ish. And he was tiny. I was tiny. Like, Scott was a bit bigger, and then this Michael guy was just massive. And, we got jobbed out real quick, thankfully. Like, and then the announcer Bean, God rest him, he had a proper country accent, couldn't pronounce my name or something. It was just, but like. That was when I was introduced to real wrestling training, was that weekend. Because that weekend was Adam Abbs and Paul Tracy, Danny Butler and Justin Shape were the 4 trainers for the weekend. And like, Paul drilled us into the ground, like proper like press ups, sit ups, squats, rolls, burpees, running the ropes, the internationals, bump this, bump that. It was incredible, because it was like, oh, this is awesome. This is proper wrestling. Not that I hadn't had proper wrestling in Belfast. It was just, this was my first sort of camp, like, 3-day weekend of just wrestling non-stop, and it was awesome. So that's when I kind of was like, okay, this is wrestling, to do more of this.
But then obviously you went from that to, I think the next promotion you worked for was Pro Wrestling Ulster at the time.
Yeah.
And you made your debut there. I think it was like July 28th. So I'm trying to like memorize all this stuff. But for Pro Wrestling Ulster then as well, like, obviously you made your debut for them, and then kind of go on and skip a bit after. I think you had a number of tag matches, number of contender matches, to eventually you actually became, I think, the Pro Wrestling Ulster champion.
Yeah, so Pro Wrestling also came from UCW. So UCW was like the stand promotion in Northern Ireland. When I went to UCW, like, I was a kid. I weighed nothing, and you had Duncan Disorderly, Sensational Sean Scott, the Fabulous Frankie Fever, Joe Cabray, Gary Cabray, The Machine, Bonesaw, Tron, 7 foot tall, JDP, massive lad. Like, there was so many lads there that were, at that point to me anyway, were huge.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'd probably be, bigger now than they were then, but they were all, 190, 200 pounds. They were all going to the gym. They all tanned. They all had good gear. They all had muscle. Like, this is the kind of thing. So I stood out like a sore thumb. The only person who didn't, there was Kev Rocks and Tucker were both on the roster, but they were on the roster like as like the skinny sort of guys on the roster. So I was put in the referee role. Most valuable thing I've ever done, to be fair, was be a referee for them. So when PW then took over from UCW, then that was it was in and around that time. I was still really just a fan, to be honest. At the time, I wouldn't have classed myself as a wrestler. I didn't class myself as a wrestler until a good few years later than that. I was a fan and a trainee. You know, even when I was working for a lot of promotions, I was a fan and a trainee. I wasn't like I didn't count myself as a wrestler for a good time. But believe it or not, I think I was like 20 year old, and we were out on the piss one night after a show in the Odyssey Arena in Belfast. Load of us went to the show. Load of us went to an after party. Everything was like, oh, this is great. And it was The Miz. Believe it or not, I said to The Miz, I thought I could be Spike Dudley. I was like, yeah, man, look, I'm skinny as hell. I can fight. You know, look at me. And I said to him, look, like one thing, like what do you got to do to be a wrestler? Like I want to be a wrestler. What about? And he went, kid, you got to hit the fucking gym. And that was it. And like I've been told loads already by like Bonesaw and by other people, and but it's hard to see from your peers sometimes.
Yeah.
And then this guy, like he's like, man, just hit the gym. Next day, gym membership. That was me. So then when PW finally took off, I had started putting on size and muscle. I started eating right, started training right. I started to look more and more like a wrestler. So I became their champion because I was the biggest guy there. Other than like JDP and Tron, those boys were huge. But other than them two, it was me and me and Tucker were the only two lads who were busting our asses hard as we were in the gym and trying to put the size on and trying to get to that next level. And so they gave me the championship.
When you guys came in, the big guys must have been looking at you going, oh, lovely lads that we can absolutely throw across the ring.
Honestly, probably. But they never did. They never sort of, I don't think they wanted to do that kind of thing on the show. Like Kev Rocks was obviously on the show and Kev was as skinny as I was. But like Kev was also like one of the most entertaining people on the roster, so he had something to give him that spot on the card. And also he was trained by Paul Tracy and Fergal Devitt and boys like that. So like he had that sort of that background to him, whereas I was just a skinny kid who just showed up one day. But I wanted to learn and I wanted to do better and I wanted to get better. And I think that's why like Bonesaw and Dunk, they didn't really like me at that point, personally. But they liked my work ethic and attitude, so it was them that kind of said, okay, we'll be refs then, do some refereeing.
I want to bring that up because you had said that you kind of learned a lot from being a ref, and no one really ever thinks about it. The main referee we can all kind of agree on in Ireland, it's Foxy. Foxy is the main referee. After that, there's some trainees and Hard Knocks and RCW that will step in, but no one ever really thinks about how much you can learn in the ring being a ref.
I don't think enough people want to do it. And I think that's maybe the issue. I don't understand why. I don't get it. Especially when you're just starting. A lot of trainees like, oh no, I just want to be a wrestler. Like, I was in the ring, like not often, to be fair, at the start. But then when like the bigger shows like Wrestling.ie kicked off, for example, and it was touring every single weekend. Like I was in the ring, like every week. I was in the ring with Joe Cabret, with Duncan Disorderly, with Bonesaw, with Sean Maxer, with Paddy Morrow. Then we had like Joe Redmond and Doug Williams and Andy Simmons. There was a load of lads that come over from England. I don't really know. There was so many of these guys. So I was in the ring doing referee for all these people. And that's the kind of, and then you're learning. You're learning. Okay, that's where this spot goes. Okay, this is a near fall. Okay, why did he put the near fall there? And it all just kind of builds up from that,
You've got the best seat in the house, as well.
Yeah. Didn't stop Joe. Joe used to mess with me. And Gary's brother Gary used to mess with me too. He's trying to make me count in Irish and stuff, and I can't count in Irish. And to this day, I can say 1, 2, but because like Duncan always kicked out, I never got the 3. So, so there you are. Then I go look at the hey and the dough, and then I'm going okay, hey, and then kick out. So I never got the 3. But it was just being in there and learning from those guys. And I mean that was even before they were the elite level that they got to. They were really good, but like they weren't like the best of the best that they had been at that point. And then as they kept on getting better as I was still refereeing, and then all of a sudden I was doing security instead of referee because it was too big to be a referee. So I was doing security instead. But again, I'm stood ringside the entire show, you know, and I'm watching Paul Tracy versus Paddy Morrow, and it's Bonesaw versus Sean Maxer, and it's Joe Cabray versus Duncan Disorderly, or it's a mixture of those matches are happening, and I'm just stood watching them going, okay, that goes there, that goes there, okay, that's why he does that, that's why he, and you're learning, just constantly learning. So I don't understand why people don't do more of it now. You know, I thought it was one of the most invaluable experiences of my life, and then you know, professional life, and then by the time I got into the ring and was being booked religiously with wrestling.ie, I already had all these great habits from watching these great guys.
What was probably, like, if you can remember, what was the best match you can say that you refereed where, like, the lads just had everyone?
Honestly, the best match I refereed was probably Duncan and Paul.
Okay.
Because Duncan and Paul, when they were doing the wrestling.ie stuff and they were doing the wrestling.ie tours, their matches were just paced so well and they built so well, and it was like anyone could have enjoyed them. Obviously, they were family shows, they were for families, but these boys had put in a little bit of indie here and a little bit of indie there, and just enough, like just enough to kind of get you over that level. And they were the best. They were the best matches refereeing at that point.
Emmett, I'll let you throw in a question.
You just mentioned there that, like, you know, early on in your career that, like, you know, like Bonesaw and one or two others kind of had a little bit of a dislike for you and everything like that. When did that dynamic change, especially now considering you seem inseparable, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so that dynamic changed when I started getting booked for wrestling.ie.
Yeah.
Was when that dynamic changed. Before then, they didn't really see me very often, but when they did see me, I was just this skinny kid who done stupid shit. Like there's no better way to put it. Like I didn't say the right things, I didn't do the right things, I didn't, you know, it was just I got it like it was nerves and youth, to be honest. You know, if you knew me before I met my wife, like I'll apologize because at some point I've pissed you off. Um, but it's no, it's yeah. I think and then obviously we had to start. Like I got booked religiously for wrestling.ie, so every week, every Friday, Saturday, in a car from Belfast, we are driving to Cork or Derry or Killarney or Limerick or wherever the show was, and we're doing this every weekend religiously. So it's just the 3 of us, maybe 4 of us in a car, and that's what the Kings of the North came from, was that car. And then I think what really helped is that I got my driver's license and I got a car. So I was able to pitch in with the driving and stuff as well. So it wasn't just them two constantly driving, which had been the case for God knows how long before that. So yeah, that was the kind of. I mean, it kind of coincided. Like I got my car when my daughter was born, so maybe I calmed down a little bit when she was born, and maybe I wasn't so much of a pain in the ass. But like, that's how that came about. That's how we became the Kings of the North from that car. We became, that kind of like that inseparable group, just from constantly working together week in and week out. Maybe 40 weeks of the year.
And you've been absolutely unstoppable. Like, you've gone from promotion to promotion to promotion, absolutely dominating. Like the first time I ever saw you guys was actually, I think it 2017, 2018, maybe even a bit later. It was actually for, randomly enough, it was a WCPW match. I think it was for the tag titles against War Machine. That was the first time I ever saw War Machine or yourselves, and I was blown away by both teams. What was like? Do you remember that match at all?
Sorry?
Do you remember that match at all?
Oh yeah, I remember that match. So we had already worked War Machine for OTT at that point.
Oh.
So we done the OTT show in the Tivoli. It was us versus War Machine. Again, massive TNA fan, massive Ring of Honor fan. The wrestling channel was good to me. So, I was huge in the Ring of Honor for a very long time. I watched Ring of Honor weekly because it was free on their website. So I was a huge War Machine fan when they got booked. And then when they were booked in against us, it was awesome. So we had a really good match in the Tivoli. The boys loved it. We loved it. Everyone just got along like a house on fire. We've stayed in touch since then. So I still speak to them now, every now and again. We'll message, especially when they've done Mania. They got the WrestleMania entrance, like things like that. Just like, it's cool to see them there because they really are the nicest lads. They're hardworking. They're humble, lovely lads. But then they had won the WCPW tag titles, and WCPW needed opponents for them, and they had picked us. They were like, yeah, we had this great match with the Kings of the North over an OTT, we should use them, they're great, blah, blah, blah. And on their recommendation then, WCPW brought us in.
Threw on a hell of a match. Like, I remember, so I knew of Irish wrestling, but I wasn't, I thought it was like, the indie, small crowds, no one, it's not that great. But I remember watching that match, and me and my mate who were mad like WWE marks at the time, I remember saying my voice note Snapchat, like, mate, you've got to fucking check out this match. Check out these two lads absolutely bastarding the War Machine. Check out fucking War Machine. Check out Hanson, this big dude who's like a cruiserweight. Yeah, I have to go check it out. And him just be like, send us the link, and the two of us just marked over that match.
Yeah. The biggest thing I remember about that match is that I kept on getting back on the apron, and Ray just kept on kicking me off. And we were match 15 on that day. We were match number 15, so the crowd were knackered before we got out there. But they still were into it enough. But it was kind of like I had kind of like messed up the timing on something, so I was on the apron like an extra time or two that I didn't need to be, and Ray just like, we just stay the fuck down. Like, get me up there. Sorry, I'll stay here. It's fine. Ain't that guardrail like constantly. But yeah, no, that was a great match, fun match, really, really fun match. If you haven't watched the OTT one, it's actually on the OTT YouTube. It's free. It's the OTT throwback. So me and Bonesaw do a quick interview with Ango about it, and then you get the whole match. So it's free on OTT's YouTube channel.
That's my fun thing to watch now when I go outside into the sun.
Yeah.
Mr. Emmet?
Well, on that note, if we're talking about tag team matches with the Kings of the North, who's your favourite tag team opponent of your career so far?
Oh, that's difficult.
We don't make it easy here on the 5Marks.
No, you really don't. And we have had some absolute, right? We've had some really, really good matches. I mean, if we're going import-wise, it's War Machine. Because we went back and forth with War Machine. Especially in OTT, it was a massive, massive deal for us to work with them. So I would say War Machine are the import kind of guys. From Ireland, it's a 50-50. It's either the lads from the flats or it's the gym nasties. And it's for the simple fact that the gym nasties match that we pulled off at even better than our best. That pop is still one of the loudest crowd reactions that I've ever heard. And it was 500 people. So it wasn't in the stadium, it
Yeah.
wasn't thousands, it was 500 people, and it was deafening. And we really built those matches and built the storylines really well. And obviously, then the lads from the flats that year, we genuinely thought we were going to get the Young Bucks for Scrapper Mania. That was the sort of that was the dream kind of at that point. We obviously had War Machine. We'd had some other import tag teams. We'd wrestled really well against these big teams. But the obviously the Scrapper Mania needed like a stellar main event. It needed that big name sort of draw. So bringing in Kenny and Will and Brian Smile and Leo Rush was probably the best option for that match. And all it done with them was give us the opportunity to do the lads from the flats versus the Kings of the North for the six man. So those are kind of like those are two of my favorite matches from here. For homegrown talent, because again the crowd reaction when Martin come back and just the match itself and wrestling Paddy Morrow it's Paddy Morrow. The guy's phenomenal. So that was, I'd say those are the three best. But there's loads more. We've wrestled La Rebellion and we've wrestled the Greedy Souls and the Sunshine Machine, and like it's just the list goes on and on and on. Like Aussie Open, obviously, are an incredible tag team. Like the list just goes on and on and on and on and on. But I think just for and the Rapture, and like, but I would say just from an organic, homegrown fan interaction, those are the two, and then obviously War Machine, because lads just wanted to see us get battered, and we did. So.
I love that you brought up this team now, because I had a whole segment for talking about the Rapture. For people who don't know, the Rapture was Shaw Samuels, Zach Gibson, and Charlie Sterling. We have to talk about that cage match. Like, oh my dear God, the whole story you guys built around that, and then I'm just saying this now. If I went in and saw the size of that cage, I would be like, Joe, are you fucking crazy? What are you thinking? What was that match like? And then obviously we're going to talk about how crazy of a person you were.
So that match was really, really good. Really well put together. Zach Gibson, cannot say enough good about Zach Gibson. Rip Fowler is what they're calling him now.
Rip Fowler, yeah.
In WWE. That guy, to me, is one of the single best British wrestlers ever. Yeah. Not only in ring he's amazing. Technically, he's amazing. Can do any style you want him to do. But the heat that boy can generate on a microphone, honestly,
I've never seen someone be so hated that they get people standing up with their shoes off, saying if you hate Zach Gibson, shoes off. Never seen that.
There's a time he comes out to cut a promo in the Tivoli, and he's talking through a microphone, and you can't hear him. That's how loud it is. You cannot hear what he's saying. The boos are that loud. The guy is he's incredible, and his mind for wrestling is second to none. Like the boy he just knows what he's doing. So the working with Zach, Charlie, and Shah over that 6-month period that we done it, the storyline that we built, it was an organic sort of change in the fans' attitude towards us, and it was just a really good build. The cage. I did not see the cage until I walked out of the curtain. It was leant up against the wall. Did not look that high, but obviously it was set horizontally, not vertically, up against the wall. So I did not know the height of the cage until we walked out, And if you watch the match, you can actually see me and Dunk walk out and look at each other and be like, bollocks. So, yeah, didn't know until we went out. Which is why the following cage, it was on the floor, not on the ring.
I do recommend people go check that match out because you absolutely battered the shit out of each other, all six of you, going back and forward. And then I have to ask you, so obviously you told us now you didn't see the cage until you got out there. You jumped off the damn thing. You could nearly touch the ceiling. How high up you were.
Yeah. So believe it or not, it actually annoyed me. So I'm terrified of heights. Firstly. Terrified of heights. Yeah. But adrenaline, you don't know. You're just going for it. But when I stood up to jump off, I couldn't jump up and out. Because if I jumped up and out, I was going to hit the projector, or I was going to come down on the cables that were for safety and for the cat. So I had to just jump out. So I was a little bit annoyed that it didn't look as Randy Orton-esque as it could. It wasn't that beautiful floating, flying crossbody. But when you take into account it was about the size of a house I jumped off, I can kind of take it. Yeah, the jump wasn't too bad though. The jump was terrifying, but like the Duncan done the frog splash, that was worse. I think the frog splash was definitely worse than my crossbody. But then I took the brain buster. So if you watch the match back, I take the suplex, turning the brain buster from Charlie Sterling off the top of the cage. And you can hear the ring crew at ringside being like, "Are you alive? Are you breathing?" I'm just lying there being like, that was like, whoa, that was insane. Like genuinely, like that was terrifying. That was so scary. But yeah, no, that match, like I love that match. I love everything we've done with the Rapture. Everything. So the 2 matches in Belfast, 2 matches in Dublin, loved every single one of them. And I would wrestle Zach Gibson, Charlie Sterling, and Sha Samuels any day of the week.
I'll just say as well, the one thing I love that you utilize is you never, every time that there's a tag team cage match, they never utilize this. I think the last people to do it were when I think it was the Hardys versus the Bar. Was Shaw and Zach got out. Charlie was going to go out. You pull him back in. That's it. They're done. They're out. They can't do nothing. So now it's 3-on-1. Now we get to fucking play.
Yeah, I deserve that brain buster probably. Charlie got battered. Charlie took a beating. But it was it's what's going to happen. It's a very. I think my favorite part of that match, believe it or not, is that Zach actually cut his hand getting out of the cage. And if you're watching it back as he's leaving, he holds up his hand, and it's the red right hand because there's just blood pouring down his hand, and it's just an awesome visual. And we had so so many more things we wanted to do with it, but it just didn't work out because of contracts and different bookings and the way things were. But the four matches that we done with him, I loved every one of them.
I love how like brainbuster, jumping off everything, all these dangerous stuff, but the one thing that got someone bleeding or hurt is leaving the cage.
Yeah, it was him climbing out of the cage. His hand slipped and it cut.
Emma, I'll let you throw a question in.
I'm going to jump the gun a small bit with this next one now, and the only reason for it, a lot of the guests we've had on since the start of the podcast about a year ago have all been lads coming up that only wrestling about a year or two and everything like that. We've talked about a lot of lads that you've wrestled to date. Is there anyone in Ireland or the UK that you haven't wrestled yet that you're looking at the moment being like, if that could happen in the next 18 months, I'd be a fan of it, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of I mean, obviously, you probably saw with the Leighton Buzzard promo and the way things are going at the minute. I'm kind of in the mood for like I want to wrestle absolutely everyone, but there are guys that I haven't had the chance to have a one-on-one with, and there's guys that I haven't had a chance to wrestle at all that I would like to work with. So LJ Cleary never had a one-on-one OTT independent match with LJ Cleary. So LJ's up there. Danny Cross will be up there. Adam Maxted. I won a one-on-one match with Adam Maxted. Big lad. Want to batter him. Yeah, there guys like that. There's some guys over in the UK that are making really big moves and really big waves. They would like to work with at some point, like Rob Drake. So JD Drake's brother, he's a big lad. He hits hard. He's a good lad. I like him. Robbie X.
Oh yes.
Callum Newman would be one that I would like to work with in a one-on-one capacity. Ashton Smith would really like to work with Ashton Smith. I'd love to do a lot more heavyweight stuff as well. Obviously, I know like Callum Newman he's actually getting a lot bigger. But I'd love to work with some heavyweight lads. BT Gunn. I've never had a one-on-one with BT Gunn. Again, he's like me. He's been there for a while. He's been about for a while. But we've never had a one-on-one match. Joe Hendry, we've never had a one-on-one match.
Oh, please. Please give me that one.
Yeah, big demo.
Yeah.
All right, he's a stable mate, but it doesn't mean that we can't knock each other shouting. Give me that one-on-one match. There's a lot. There's a lot of guys. There's a lot of opportunities out there for matches that I have. Charles Crowley as well. That lad is. If you don't know Charles Crowley's stuff, I mean, if you watch Progress and stuff, you're going to get to see it. But like that guy, creatively, is just on another level. And so many people at the minute, he's just absolutely brilliant. The list goes on and on. Ricky Knight Jr.
Yeah.
Never had a one-on-one with that guy. Luke Jacobs, never done one-on-one. Like a lot of these guys I've worked tag with, never had that one-on-one match. So that's the kind of, Osprey. I want Osprey one-on-one after the match in Belfast. Haskins, I'd love to wrestle Mark Haskins. Pretty much anyone who could push me to my limits and take me somewhere new. That's who I want to get in the ring with, and whether that's an established guy like Mark Haskins, or like Will Ospreay, or like Rampage Brown or Ashton Smith.
Ooh.
Like whether it's a big guy like that who's going to be able to beat me black and blue up and down the ring, or like twist me into a pretzel, that's great. Or if it's a younger guy coming up, the likes of a Leighton Buzzard, or someone like that, then Callum Newman, I want to fight them too. Because they're all it's going to do is just make me better. That's all I care about, is just getting better. And then tag team wise, anyone and everyone. I love tag team wrestling. If there's tag teams out there that want to go, let's go. Because whether it's me and Dunk, me and Bonesaw, or Bonesaw and Dunk, like it's a massive scrap. But I mean, at the minute, especially with OTT, I'm focused more on the single side of things. So like any of those matches.
And like you said there, you're very focused on the single side, and I'll get to that in a bit. But there's one dream match, and I brought this up with Joe Cabrea on there a few weeks ago, and I told him, I've said this to everybody. There's one dream match I have in wrestling, and Joe, he goes, it was that close. And I was like, yourself and Bonesaw versus FTR. That is my wrestling dream match. I think the two teams would just batter each other.
Yeah, that to me, FTR are the professional wrestling tag team on the planet. They are.
Completely agree with you.
Yeah, unless we beat them, we can't say we're the best. It's really as simple as that. Is how I see it. It's a match that I've wanted for a very long time. It's a match that Bonesaw's wanted for a long time. It's a match that Joe has wanted to do. It hasn't lined up yet.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it does line up at some point. I really do. I spoke to Dax and Cash briefly in a Twitter exchange about it. And I said to him, look, you're the best tag team in the world. We want to wrestle you guys. Let's make this happen, because they were doing independent dates at the time. And they were like, yeah, I hope you're ready. Let's go. And it just hasn't lined up. It's always the hard thing when it comes to contracted guys. Sometimes it doesn't go in your favor.
Yeah.
But again, like, if that match is booked, it could be OTT, it can be AEW, it could be your granny's back garden. I would wrestle that match in a heartbeat.
If you could just both do me a favor, just show up at All In, not invited, just jump in the ring and just attack them and start something, I'd be happy.
Yeah, do you know what? You should take us to London for all. If Tony's footing the bill on that, but no, yeah, like that's a dream match for us as well. That match is so high up there, on our list of matches to watch. And I really want, like, if we can get it, we'll get it. If Joe can get it, he will get it. But it's whether or not it can be got.
I'm crossing everything. That is the one match I am dying to see. And the day it gets announced, I don't care what show it is, I don't care where it is, I am going to that show to watch that match. But as you said, you obviously on the OTT side, you're stepping away from the tag side of things. Like you're Kings of the North now are 5-time OTT tag team champions, but you're still to kind of get that singles. But you tried in Derry before with Sam. You tried for the NLW title, came up short. You just had the match with Leighton Buzzard, as you said afterwards, saying, lads, I'm gonna step away for a bit. I need this. What was kind of is this something you feel like you have to do? It's now or never.
It's not that it's now or never. I'm still young. I've been around for a while, and people confuse being around for a while with being old. I'm not. And like, we got 18 months of no bumps, no travel, no training. We got 18 months, and 18 months of no bumps is like 5 years on your wrestling career. We got that back. It's, for me especially, it's more of just a stepping up with OTT. I've been called upon over the years with OTT to do singles matches when they were needed. So whether it was, Maxer, I wrestled Maxer twice for OTT. So whether it was wrestling Maxer or Chris Brooks or Lucky Kid, or Pete Dunne, for example, in Belfast. And then whether it was taking the Ilya Dragunov match, short notice, in Belfast. I was actually in a fatal 4-way that day, and that could change the triple threat, and I could put him with Dragunov instead due to an injury. I've always been there to be able to do the singles matches when they needed to be done. And because there's 4 of us if you count Demo. Okay, we obviously count Demo. But Damo's not available for every show.
Yeah.
There's 3 of us. There's only 2 tag team titles. It's as simple as that. So, me and Bonesaw have carried that division, for years. Not just even an OTT, but like we went to ICW and we took that division. Jack Morris, guys, unreal as well. Jack Morris, I want a rematch with Jack Morris just to put that out there. Jack Morris, look, we took the belts from Jack Morris and Dickie Divers. Jack was gone; he was away to Japan, so we built that division over there. TNT didn't have a division. We built that division over there. OTT didn't really have a division. We built the OTT division, you know, and every time that the division kind of stumbles, we come back and we build it again. And I just think it's time for something fresh from the Kings of the North.
Mm.
So having Bonesaw and Duncan tag for OTT and the Kings of the North, they have tagged before. They've had a couple of tag team matches before, just the two of them. But they haven't had the longevity in tag team that me and Bonesaw have had. So let those guys run with the tag team division. Let them create something new from the Kings of the North for the tag team division. And I'm going for the OTT world title. Was kind of it. Because I wasn't in Race to the Top. Neither was Bonesaw. Neither was Duncan. Neither was Damo. There was neither was Tucker. Neither was Adam Maxted. Like, there was no Belfast representation for Race to the Top, and it's just the way things fell. It wasn't a malicious thing, or we weren't excluded or anything. Yeah. It was just whatever way things fell, that's how it ended up, and that was kind of like, that was my kind of kick in the ass. Like, no, like this is how this has to be. I have to do this. I have to be that guy that brings the world title to Belfast, and there's guys out there and they're faster than me, and there's guys out there that they can flip more than I can flip, and they can do all this fancy, awesome, creative stuff. But there's something to be said about a guy who still just takes your head off with a clothesline. And that's kind of like, I'm fighting for my kind of wrestler, for my kind of size, for my city, for my promotion. It's my home promotion, it's OTT, and you have to want to be the world champion of your promotion, and it is a legitimate world championship. It's had champions that have traveled the world with that belt, and that's what I want to do. I want that. I want it to be a world championship. I want to take it everywhere. I want to defend it everywhere, and I want to make sure that people know that OTT is the best product, and I want to be the representation of why that's the best product.
So obviously, Omari being the number one contender now after winning Race to the Top, who ideally would you rather face? Would you like to go against Sam one more time, or take the test of Omari?
I want to beat Omari and then take that championship from Sam.
Ooh, I like that even better.
Like, I can't. I mean, yeah. Like, don't be me wrong. I'm not. I'm not. Like I said in Belfast, I don't expect to beat Leighton Buzzard and be handed a title shot.
Gotta earn it.
You got to earn that title shot. Omari is the number one contender who won Race to the Top. He deserves his fair shot. And if he wins, fair play. I'll beat him. If he does, if Sam retains, then I'll beat him, and then I'll get I want to wrestle whoever I have to wrestle, because I don't want them to be like, okay, you're mouthing, have a title shot. I want it to be as like, okay, we genuinely cannot deny that you're the guy who deserves this championship shot. And the next time, there won't be, a load of faffing about, and it won't be in Derry. It'll be, in Dublin or in Belfast, and it'll be one-on-one, and then, no excuses.
Love it. Emmet, I'll let you throw in last few questions before I go into my last topic.
I just want to add it to that point that, like, I've only started following OTT in the last 12 months, and that's the dynamic now, like, seeing the direction that you're going in and seeing the direction that Sammy's been going in since January, that, like, that'd be, I know you've faced each other in the past, but that just writes itself. I would love to personally see that now, like, do you know what I mean? But just, like, I was actually going to ask you about, like, singles pursuits or anything like that, but then we've been talking about it for the last few minutes, so you kind of answered it before I got to ask it, which is grand. But, like, for you now, was that I know this is going to sound like a silly question, but I've had these conversations with people who met at shows and stuff like this. A lot of people that get into, there's the famous quote that if you're not in this business to get into become world champion, you shouldn't be in it at all. Where you're at now and everything like this, like, how much more does it mean to you now to have that, would like to be in a position where you could have that responsibility to be world champion than it would have when you started off? Like, I know there's obviously like learned experience and everything like this, but is that a drive and ambition now? Do you feel like you deserve to be the guy at this rate now? Like, do you know what I mean? You've put in the time, you've put in the effort, and you've shown that you could be a dependable talent for OTT and for any other company.
Yeah, that I mean, I feel that I deserve to be in that conversation. Because with OTT, I've been there since day one. I've done absolutely everything for OTT. OTT has been my priority since day one. It's still my priority now, and will continue to be my priority. And after COVID, you know, everywhere's taken a hit. Like all independent wrestling has taken a hit. You know, the cost of living everywhere's taken a hit. So it's not a responsibility I would take lightly. Because if you're the champion, you're the champion. You're the guy bringing people in.
Yeah.
People need to want to see you either win or lose. That's what sells the ticket. So yeah, but I mean I feel like now I'm the best wrestler that I've ever been. I don't do things that I used to do. Something you'd have seen me do even a year ago, you'll not see me do now. I don't dive over the top rope. I don't take stupid risks. I'm very even when you're cheering me, I'm very cold and calculated. Like my style doesn't really change. I still just beat your bollocks in. Just some people cheer for it and some people don't. But I've worked incredibly hard, and I don't just work at the in-ring side of things. I do hours of promos. I do I spend hours in the gym. I spend ridiculous amount of time on diet and training, and so to look like a champion should look, and to wrestle like the way a champion should wrestle again, just how I feel it should be done. Not to say that that's the only way it can be done or it's the right way to be done, but it's the way that I feel it should be done. And Sam does that, and other, it's a championship mentality. And I think the difference between me now and maybe even 12 months ago or 3 years ago or when I wrestled Ilya, I didn't have that mentality. So I could have the good match, I could put on the good show, but now I have the mentality of, okay, it's not just the match, it's not just the show. It's how am I carrying myself? How am I carrying the company? What am I doing that's going to benefit the company and make this championship more worthwhile? And that's the most important thing for me, is that if I'm a champion and no one comes to watch the show, well, I'm not a good champion. And it's just it's just a driving force. I just kind of feel like I've earned it. I've earned to be in the conversation, to be part of this world championship chase, and I'll continue to keep earning it and keep working hard until I am the champion. But I have a great support system. I have a great, a great network of people like Bonesaw. He'll watch my matches back and he'll tear the matches apart and he'll critique me, and he doesn't sugarcoat it. He makes sure he knows when I messed up and knows what could be better, and I have Joe can do the same, and Duncan does the same, and and then obviously I have my wife and that kind of thing. So there's so many levels to me now that weren't there before. So now is definitely the time for me to be pushing for that spot.
And who knows, one day could be OTT World Champion.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to stop this until I get to where I want to be. I don't get no's. I just get one step closer to yes. That's how I see it. I don't. There's no stopping. I drive for it. So that's.
Pick yourself up, get that goal. That's all it is.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Now, I had one more topic, but before I get to that, because I can't believe this is not on my notes and I forgot to talk about it. But obviously, you guys were at the last Hard Knocks show in the opening tag match.
Yeah.
How fucking badass was that entrance? Coming out with the band
Oh
playing
yeah,
the
man. Didn't even know. Just showed up. And they're like, "Is that our music? That is our music. That's good. This is a remix." Then there's a live band playing it. Unreal. So that was cool as hell. That was awesome. Hard Knocks is great. Those guys have a really good product down there. And also the I don't know what they call themselves in Hard. They call the blockbusters everywhere else.
The pretty
Um,
did Playboys, I think it is.
yeah. So yeah, the blockbusters. So yeah, Valentine and Sparks. Those guys are awesome. Big, hard hitting lads. And they're going to go far. Like they'll not just be you'll see them everywhere, because they're awesome.
Well, and we love having the hard knocks. They had the first show; they were great there. The match you just had, the opener for Undisputed. If people haven't watched that, by the way, it's free on YouTube. Check
Yeah,
it out. Great match between the four of you, and even at the end, the handshake and the announcement of the tag team titles. But I want to end this off on a very positive note in terms of, so like I told the story on about like how I was absolutely breaking it just to message you, but like and like a lot of people don't even know how nice a person you are. Like I remember at Scrapper, you had just released the green like four of you the T-shirt, and I ordered
yeah,
one, and every person that went up, you were, thanking them, like, lads, thank you so much for ordering the shirt. This is our business. This is how we pay our families and stuff like that. And I went up, you're exactly the same. I thought, oh my God, the Irish wrestling lads are so fucking nice. But then, obviously, that weekend as well, there was a tragedy within the community. And yourself and Angel Wishes stepping in and doing what you did was so damn nice.
yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Like it really just hit me. I don't know how these guys do this. Like I don't know how John Cena's on like what, like 500 Make a Wishes or whatever he's on at the minute. It's like it's the second time that we've had to deal with something like that. Um, but not as severe, so not to that extent. And then to meet to meet Bailey on the Sunday, and this kid is fighting, man. Like his parents want to take him home, they want him to rest, and he's refusing. He is fighting to stay and watch the show. And my wife was sat like 3 rows behind him, and like she saw them, like they had to have his oxygen tank changed like 4 or 5 times just to make it through the show. And like if a fan is showing that much dedication and that much heart just to sit to watch us,
Mm.
then it's my responsibility to give something back. There's no other way to put it. I'm obligated to do something as small as it can be. So a month of rowing and press ups, like it's nothing compared to what these guys are going through and what these kids are going through. So being able to raise over £2,000 for the charity was great. The support of the wrestling community and of the other wrestlers was incredible. And like heel turn and OTT done the T-shirt, which added like substantially to it, which was incredible. But the fact that this kid came and stayed all day on Sunday, and he passed away on Tuesday morning. That's the last thing that he got to do with his family. His mum actually has a canvas in her house, and it's a picture of me with Bailey, and he's holding the title after we won the tag title. She has that blown up as a massive canvas because like the kid hadn't smiled in weeks. He's been so sick, and there he is now, and he's like, just for a second, that whole family forgot that he was sick, just for a second. And it's worth it. Everything we do, every single thing that we do, is worth it just for that. And I mean, I've been lucky in the fact that Angel Wishes have been really happy with what I've done. They've let me do some other stuff for them. They've let me do some meet and greets for them. I met a kid recently, Jaden, his name is, the biggest Cody Rhodes fan you will ever meet in your life. This kid thinks Cody Rhodes is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Him and Roman Reigns could beat me up. He's told me flat out, like, they would leather me. I have no hope. So I done a home visit for him on his birthday. You know, showed up with a belt, took some pictures, things I got there, and they came to OTT in Belfast for the Buzzard match. So before the show, I was able to bring him in, and he goes, "Man, I've never been in a wrestling ring." I was like, "Never? Okay, cool. Let's fix it. Clear the ring. Okay, Jane, jump up. You're in a wrestling ring. What do you want to do?" And this kid goes, "Just come here a second." He's like, "Right." RKO's me. Swear to God, man. Like this kid, and like he's got a breathing and a feeding tube, and like he's lost his hair due to all the treatment, and he doesn't care. This kid is like, he is the light of, like, he's the light of your day. He's just a lovely, outgoing, amazing kid, and he doesn't really care that he's sick. He cares that that wrestling's on. When he's sitting, he's bragging. He's like, "I don't have to go to school. I just have to sit here and watch wrestling all day." I was like, "Right, okay, cool. You not getting any homework?" He says, "Yeah, but I don't do it. I watch wrestling. So watching Raw now, it's class." And it's and then he gets in the ring and he drops me with an RKO out of nowhere, and like he pins me and stuff. And then we give him the belt, and he's in the ring with the belt, like I'm Mr. Perfect, bump and fall out of the ring and whatever. And you couldn't wipe the smile off the kid's face the rest of the day. Like, if that's not why we do this, why do we? I mean, yeah, there's a bit of ego to it. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, yeah, there's a bit of ego to it. Yeah, we all want to be millionaires and make all the money, and like we all want a contract, and we all want and want and want and want and want. And sometimes you're so focused on, the contract, or like you're so focused on making it massive, or like that you just forget about these little things. And I'm really lucky that's come into, Angel Wishes has kind of come into my life this year, and I'm even luckier that they're allowing me to do more and more work with them, and to be able to, like, if I can make a family forget that their child is sick on a Sunday afternoon for a couple of hours, then, man, I'll do anything.
It's all about them moments.
Yeah. I have a kid. I have a 9-year-old, and she has like the most minor disability, and like, there's times you kind of go, "Man, I feel so bad," and then you're meeting these other kids and these other families and what they're having to go through. I was like, man, they would jump at the chance just to have that minor issue. They would take that in a heartbeat over what they're having to deal with. So, I mean, it's gave me like a fresh perspective on a lot of things, but it's just gave me even more love for pro wrestling, because at the end of the day, that's what these kids love, and they're not sick when they're watching pro wrestling. They're just kids.
They get to forget about it all for the brief moments, It's especially like because I remember when I think somebody posted on the Monday the picture of you and Bailey, and I was like, "Oh, that's so cool," and then the next day to read the pass, I was like, "Oh my God," it was an eye opener, just like how quick that it can always be pulled away. He had that last moment, but for all that you're doing and everything with Angel Wishes and raising over £2,000 for the family and stuff like that, greatly appreciate you doing that.
Oh, well, yeah. Again, I don't need any thanks or appreciation for it. I'm just glad that I can do it.
And even though, ladies and gentlemen, he looks like this big terrifying man that would snap your leg in a second, I can confirm he's very, very nice. You can go up and say hello.
Yeah, you can say hello. You can buy a T-shirt. I'll sign it 8 by 10. There's always a fresh design. I don't like to reprint, so there's always new T-shirts as well.
And I'll say as well, the Kings of the North has some really, really good designs. I don't know who does your work, but the last, I think maybe the 3 t-shirts have been just off the chart.
Yeah.
Especially the
It's
new
me
one
and
out now.
Bonesaw. Yeah, me and Bonesaw do a really crap drawing, and then we send it off to a guy called Alex Hugel. And then he goes, "Is this what you mean?" And we're like, "Yeah, that's exactly what I meant." But like I'm drawing like stick figures, and this guy's coming up with like this, like, "Yeah, that's what I drew. That's what I yeah."
That's exactly it. How did you get that from a couple of stick figures? That's all I ever do with these guys. I'm like, yeah, here's the idea. If you could figure it out, go with it.
Yeah.
But I think we're an hour and 20 in now, so we'll.
Oh,
You know,
Jesus. Yeah, I talk too much.
thing is, we keep saying to the lads, it's even better for us because then this time flies. Like, I didn't realize until I looked over. It's like, oh my god, we're over an hour already. Like, it feels like we just started. But Emmett, I'll let you throw in any last questions or anything you want to say before I sign off.
No, I just want to throw in one last final comment. It's just like from like the little bits we've been talking about today and everything is I'm very, very personally excited to see what you do over the next 18 months. I mean, as a fan that's just been exposed to you in the last year or so, just from that perspective, I cannot wait to see what's to come because it's been an absolute pleasure so far. Today was an absolute pleasure. So wishing you all the best moving forward.
Cheers, man.
But David, thank you so much for coming on. It was an absolute pleasure getting to talk to you. And as Emmett said there, best luck and obviously going for the OTT World title. Title stuck in my head for some reason. And can't wait to see what you get up to. But ladies and gentlemen, it has been a fun time. Is there any socials you want to shout out there?
It's just Corvin NI for everything. It's not Corvini. It's Corvin NI. You know, in Northern Ireland NI. All one word. That's Twitter and Insta. And then of course just check out OTTOnDemand.com. It's cheap as chips. There's an insane amount of content on it, and it just constantly keeps on getting added to. So definitely add that to your wrestling subscription list.
And there's a lot of matches for people to go check out now that we mentioned today. So off you go, ladies and gentlemen. But as well for ourselves, you can find us everywhere. 5Marks Pod, on Twitter, 5Marks Podcast everywhere else. Emmet Carmo's not here this week, so I'm gonna have to stick you with the outro because you created it. So I'll send it over to you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that has been another episode of the 5Marks Pro Wrestling Podcast. And until next time, we're everywhere. Have a safe and lovely week. But for now, we are ding done.